The old wooden fence collapsed with a crack so loud that every bird on the street flew into the bright blue afternoon sky. I looked up from my front yard just in time to see my elderly neighbor stumble backward, gripping a broken post to keep himself from falling. For a terrifying second, I thought he was going to hit the ground. I dropped everything and ran across the lawn without thinking. I didn't know that helping him rebuild a simple fence that sunny afternoon would uncover a story buried for decades, change the course of my own lonely life, and end with 7 unforgettable words that still echo in my heart today. There's someone I want you to meet. Those words would lead me to a miracle neither of us saw coming. Before we continue, if you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the Kindness Project. Every act of support helps us share more inspiring stories that remind the world compassion still exists. My name is Nolan, and at 34, I had quietly become the kind of man who lived beside people without truly knowing them. After losing both my parents within 3 years and watching my engagement fall apart soon afterward, I convinced myself that keeping my distance from everyone was the safest way to avoid more heartbreak. My days followed the same routine. I worked from home as a furniture designer, spent my evenings repairing old tools in the garage, and rarely accepted invitations from friends. My neighborhood was peaceful, but I treated it like a hotel where people happen to sleep rather than a community where lives intertwined. The only person who ever waved consistently was the elderly veteran who lived next door. His name was Owen Mercer. Every morning, regardless of the weather, he walked slowly to his mailbox wearing a faded military cap that looked older than most of the houses on our street. His back was bent, his movements careful, but there was something steady about him. His lawn was always trimmed. His porch was spotless. The American flag hanging beside his front door never looked neglected. Yet despite seeing him almost every day, we had exchanged little more than polite greetings. That afternoon, after the fence collapsed, I hurried over and helped Arthur sit on a nearby bench. He insisted he was fine, though I noticed his hands shaking slightly from the effort. Looking at the broken fence stretching across his yard, I offered to help rebuild it. At first he resisted with the stubborn pride common to people who had spent their lives solving their own problems. But eventually he nodded, and together we gathered fresh lumber, nails, and concrete from the local hardware store. The summer sun warmed the neighborhood as we worked side by side. The job should have taken only a few hours, but Arthur moved slowly because of old injuries that still haunted him decades after his military service. Instead of rushing, I matched his pace. We measured every board carefully, dug each hole together, and laughed whenever one of us accidentally covered the other with dirt. For the first time in years, I forgot about my own sadness. There was something peaceful about building something meaningful with another human being. As the afternoon stretched into evening, Arthur gradually began sharing pieces of his life. He spoke about serving overseas as a young man, about friendships forged under impossible circumstances, and about the painful silence that followed him home after the war ended. He admitted that many veterans returned carrying invisible wounds that no one else could see. He had lost close friends in combat, and surviving when they did not filled him with guilt that never completely disappeared. Listening to him, I realized the strongest people often carried the heaviest burdens without asking anyone to notice. Over the following weeks, repairing the fence turned into an unexpected friendship. Every Saturday, I stopped by his house to help with little projects. Sometimes we painted a shed. Sometimes we cleaned the gutters. Other days we simply sat on the porch drinking iced tea while neighborhood children rode bicycles beneath the warm afternoon sun. Arthur never complained about growing older, but loneliness slipped into his voice whenever conversations drifted toward family. He had no children. His wife had passed away years earlier after a long illness. Since then, the house had become painfully quiet. One bright morning, after we finished repairing an old garden bench, Arthur looked at me with thoughtful eyes that seemed unusually emotional. He thanked me for treating him like a friend instead of a burden. Then he quietly said there was someone he wanted me to meet. His expression carried both hope and nervousness, making me realize this request meant far more than an ordinary introduction. We drove nearly an hour through rolling countryside until we reached a modest rehabilitation center surrounded by blooming flowers. Arthur walked more slowly than usual as we entered the building. Nurses greeted him warmly, clearly recognizing him from previous visits. My curiosity grew with every step until we stopped outside a sunny room overlooking a peaceful garden. Inside sat a young woman named Hazel, carefully painting colorful landscapes despite using only one hand. A car accident several years earlier had left her with lasting physical challenges, but her smile filled the room with warmth. Arthur explained that he had volunteered at the center after losing his wife. Hazel had no close family remaining, and over time they had formed a bond resembling grandfather and granddaughter. Yet Arthur worried constantly about what would happen after he was gone. He wasn't asking me for money or favors. He simply hoped I would become another caring presence in her life, someone who could remind her that kindness still existed beyond those walls. At first I questioned whether I deserved that responsibility. My own life had been built around avoiding emotional attachments. But Hazel welcomed me with genuine curiosity instead of expectation. Over the following months, I visited regularly. We painted together, explored nearby parks during sunny afternoons, and shared stories about dreams we had nearly abandoned. Her courage slowly inspired me to confront my own grief. Instead of hiding from pain, she transformed it into beautiful artwork that celebrated hope. Watching Arthur observe our growing friendship became one of life's greatest gifts. His eyes carried quiet relief each time we laughed together. He never tried to control our relationship. He simply smiled with the satisfaction of someone witnessing kindness multiply beyond his own lifetime. He often reminded us that people rarely remembered how much money someone earned or how impressive their career had been. They remembered who showed up when life became difficult. One crisp autumn afternoon, almost exactly a year after the fence had collapsed, Arthur passed away peacefully in his sleep. The neighborhood gathered beneath clear daylight skies to honor the veteran who had quietly served both his country and his community. Soldiers folded the flag that had hung proudly outside his home for decades. Neighbors shared stories I had never heard, revealing countless anonymous acts of generosity Arthur had performed throughout his life. He had repaired roofs for struggling families, secretly paid utility bills for widows, and delivered groceries to people too proud to ask for help. His greatest victories had never made headlines. They had simply changed lives. Among Arthur's belongings was a handwritten letter addressed to me. Inside, he thanked me for reminding him that goodness still lived in ordinary people. He wrote that fixing the fence had never truly been about wood or nails. It had been about rebuilding human connection. He ended the letter by asking only one thing: never stop looking for opportunities to become the answer to someone else's prayer. Today, Hazel's artwork hangs inside community centers across the county, inspiring thousands of visitors each year. Together we established a volunteer program honoring Arthur's memory, connecting veterans, seniors, and young volunteers who simply needed someone willing to listen. Every new friendship that begins there reminds me how one ordinary afternoon changed countless futures. Sometimes life's greatest purpose doesn't arrive through grand achievements. Sometimes it begins with noticing an elderly neighbor struggling beside a broken fence. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the Kindness Project so together we can spread more stories of hope, compassion, and second chances. Special request: before this story ends, please comment with the words, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe even one small act of compassion can create a ripple that lasts for generations. As I stand beside the beautiful fence we built together, glowing under another peaceful afternoon sun, I no longer see weathered boards or old nails. I see a reminder that every stranger carries a story, every act of kindness plants a seed, and every helping hand has the power to heal hearts we never knew were breaking. Arthur thought I was repairing his fence, but in truth, he quietly repaired something far more important inside me. And that is a gift no storm, no passing season, and no passage of time will ever take away.